Today is Sunday, November 3rd, 2019, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. I'm glad you're with us. To the surprise of absolutely no one, the Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives voted to push ahead with something that has really been going on for some time, the investigation into whether President Trump should be impeached. This was a most partisan vote. The yeses were all Democrats. All of the Republicans voted no, though 2 Democrats did also go against the tide and vote no with them. But among the yeses was Michigan's Andy Levin, who described listening to the testimony of William Taylor as his most disturbing day in Congress so far. Congressman Levin is here this morning to talk about where we are. Also this morning, perhaps last week, you saw our interview with Mayor Duggan. We spent a lot of time talking about the Inspector General's report on the Make Your Date program. The IG is Ellen Ha, and she is voicing frustration with the city not taking her recommendations about the program to heart. She's here this morning to talk about it. And tomorrow, John Conyers is going to be laid to rest at Greater Grace Temple. His is a complicated legacy. More than 50 years in Congress, a lion of the civil rights movement, but a tenure that ended in controversy. How do we best remember John James Conyers, Jr.? It's all today on Flashpoint. Well, it could be next week that we actually start to get a look at the transcripts of what's been said so far in these preliminary investigations into impeachment. Right now, it's mostly been committees who've heard it, and that includes the Foreign Affairs Committee, and that means it includes Michigan Congressman Andy Levin from Michigan's 9th District, who's my guest again on Flashpoint. Good to have you back, Congressman.
Thanks, Devin. It's great to be with you.
You were in there for the testimony of Bill Taylor,
Yes.
The highest-ranking diplomat that the U.S. has had in Ukraine, and you came out and said it was your most troubling day in Congress thus far. Why?
Well, Ambassador Taylor came in there, and who knew? But, it turns out he's one of these people who takes very meticulous notes of all of his work, of his meetings, his calls. And he came in and just gave a first-person, devastating portrait of a president of the United States, discounting our national security in our relations with another country, and instead trying to advance his own political interests going towards the 2020 election. It was, forget about Democrats and Republicans or political parties. I mean, this is basically our democracy at stake. Whether a president is carrying out the national interests of the United States, or whether he's in our relations with a foreign government, using whether another president can meet with him, using military assistance that Congress had already appropriated for that country to try to dig up dirt on his political opponents.
It seems clear to you.
Yes.
The other side, it seems just as clear. My hunch is you could all pass lie detector tests about how you feel about this. And yet, when the vote is taken, it is almost exactly along party lines. 2 Democrats who went against the tide and stayed on the Republican side and voted against it. But
and then our own Justin Amash, who's now an independent, voting for it. Right.
But is the whole process damaged by it looking this partisan?
I don't. Number one, we don't have a choice because we have to carry out our oath under the Constitution to uphold our democracy, to hold everyone accountable under the law. I actually don't think it's going to end up being this partisan. I might be wrong, but when I talk to my Republican colleagues privately, not many of them defend the actions of the President of the United States. In public, they talk about this process, and, for all this time they were saying, there's been no vote, this is illegitimate. Well, we just voted and set up the rules for the next part, the public part of the impeachment inquiry. But here's the thing. I think the House of Representatives is going to impeach the President of the United States, which means indict him, sort of, in a way.
Right.
And then it will send it to the Senate for trial to decide not whether to convict him or,
as partisan, he remains in office.
He would remain in office. But what I'm saying to you right here on a Sunday morning is, I think those Republican senators, when faced with the overwhelming case we're going to make, that the president violated our national security, that he violated his oath of office by using taxpayer money and our diplomats for his own personal political ends, I'm not so sure those Republican senators are going to vote to leave him in office.
When the Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy took to the floor and said, look, we have an election a year from now.
Yes.
Why don't we leave this in the hands of the American people? Why isn't he right about that?
Well, I'm happy for the American people to decide on who should be president when they vote on November 3rd, 2020. If he's still in office, I think the American people will choose someone else. But in any event, the Constitution doesn't say wait around if someone, I mean, if we think that a president of the United States has committed impeachable offenses, I don't really see that we're supposed to say, oh, well, we'll just let it slide. We're doing this for future generations, Devin. What is the standard for any future president? Are they above the law?
Well, I understand the political purity that or actually not the unpolitical purity that you want to see in there, but that we have seen. Wasn't it damaging for Adam Schiff to kind of do what I think he described as a parody of the way the president acted? But his comments going into that first open hearing, where he took great liberty with what was actually said on the phone call, isn't that kind of thing sort of damaging to the process too? I mean, I'm not sure Democrats have been above reproach, have they?
Well, I didn't actually see this thing. I have seen Adam Schiff in action in these depositions. I've seen him in action leading the Intelligence Committee, and I think he's been, in general, very sober and very serious. So I may have missed this one thing. I don't see all the TV, I'm afraid, but he has been so respectful. I just want all of the viewers to realize, every one of these depositions we've held, right? The Republicans are there, the Democrats are there. Unlimited time for both sides to ask questions. We do an hour, they do an hour. They have full rights. We're making complete transcripts. All of this, besides what might need to be redacted for national security purposes, will all be out there for the American people to see in the light of day. So none of this is going to be hidden. It's all going to come out.
The point that the Republicans go to again and again was that Joe Biden's son and his involvement and the quid pro quo that they seem to believe that Joe Biden laid out, either fire this prosecutor or you don't get the aid that you want either, that it's apples and apples, that we're watching the same kind of thing, and that it wasn't a very good look for Hunter Biden to be on the son of of an American vice president to be on these international boards. Do they have a point?
They have no point in the following sense. On the last thing you said, I'd be all for setting up a rule that says the kids of sitting Congress people or presidents, vice presidents shouldn't be on foreign boards. I'd be fine with that, but it was perfectly legal when he did it, or it is legal today. But the main point you made, that there was some quid pro quo from Vice President Biden, that is a completely debunked conspiracy theory that in our classified briefings, in our public briefings, no legitimate law enforcement person has ever given any credence to that.
It's not coming up.
Right? It's totally not credible. So I need you almost to say it.
No,
honestly, there's no evidence.
It was very different. It was President Obama's policy, and that of it was a bipartisan plea in Washington at the time and all over Europe to get rid of this corrupt prosecutor.
Right, and not only that, I mean, Ambassador Yovanovitch, who Trump removed, was seen as a champion of getting rid of corruption in Ukraine by everybody across Republicans and Democrats and people, our allies abroad. And Trump removed her because Giuliani didn't think she was carrying out Trump's personal interests.
While we're on the cast of characters, so 2 days after Bill Taylor gave the testimony that you found so damning, Tim Morrison, a White House advisor, came in and basically largely backed up what Taylor said this is exactly what was said, but he didn't take it as being illegal or improper. Is this all going to come down to semantics?
No. This, Mr. Morrison is a appointee of the president. He went in there and saw the president doing something that he found so alarming that he was part of the group that alerted the legal folks in the National Security Council. And they thought it was so damning that they moved where all the president's conversations are with other leaders on one server into this hyper secure national security server that it's supposed to be about like nuclear secrets, war plans, very secure things. They moved it because the president said something that was totally inappropriate. This, with all due respect to Mr. Morrison, the judgment here is for our elected representatives. Our representatives and our senators to decide, and we're going to have to decide whether it's okay for a president to use the relationship with another country for his own personal ends.
I wanted to make sure we got to one more topic this morning, and that's the trade war.
Wait, can I say something really quickly?
Okay.
This is a Detroit thing, Devin. We have a huge Ukrainian-American population here. They happen to be centered in the 9th District of Warren,
yes.
but they're all over this region,
Yes.
right? Let's not forget that. What are we talking about here? Russia invaded Ukraine. They are inside Ukraine prosecuting a war against a sovereign state. So this isn't just, the president. This is our real national security at stake. And the most profound thing has been to see a parade of career people come through and say they don't care about Democrats and Republicans. Their job is just to protect the national security of the United States, and that's what's being violated.
I'll have to leave whether Barack Obama did enough about Russia's incursion there for another conversation.
It's a good point. No, it's a fair point.
Quickly, I wanted to get to, you wrote a piece this past week about the trade war, which is not getting near as much attention now that we're all focused on this.
Right.
But it still is having an acute impact on Michigan.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we now see that less percentage of the U.S. GDP is coming from manufacturing than any time in 70 years. That's directly because of Donald Trump's scattershot, trade war against our allies, our enemies, anybody. And we need a coherent trade policy to protect good jobs in Michigan. What he's doing is not it.
Which we're not discussing very much, again, is this very
well, we should talk. Let's talk about it more.
We will
I'll
next
come
time.
back. Yes.
I really appreciate you being here. I know you're on your way to Israel and Palestine.
Yes.
But thanks for making the stop this morning. Back with more on Flashpoint right after this.